Sadak, Randy Cross, Sheehan Stanwood Birch. Delighted to be with you. The game's first possession to the air. Phil Mayhew on the receiving end of Riley Ferguson's pass. Josiah Powell gets the tackle, and Memphis has a prompt first down.
Ferguson loves going to his right. When he runs, he can run really well to his right and throw. Incumbent upon Navy to see if they can stop that and make him go the other way.
Memphis going 2 tight ends today. As the inside run doesn't have a whole lot. Jarvis Polu led the pile, shoving him back after a couple. There's Dorland Dorcius on the carry. Chick-fil-A starting lineups. Riley Ferguson at quarterback. Began his college career, Randy, in the SEC at Tennessee.
He's big, he's strong, he's got a great arm.
Another inside piercing run for Dorcius. He's knocked down by Daquan Thomason. Gets to the Navy 48. Here's the rest of the offense. We've already seen Phil Mayhew with the grab today.
And Roberson, a new face working on the offensive line. Very young up there up front.
Right into the teeth of the Navy defense. Patrick Forrestall corrals Dorcius. These are the starters for Navy. Tyrus Wooten would likely have not played had Navy seen ECU on Thursday. Darrell Henderson thwarted in the backfield. DJ Palmore leads the team in tackles for loss, and he pins him back at the 49.
I think it's really incumbent on that side of the defense for them to play extremely aggressively. Plays like that from Palmore and Polu get that penetration. And here in rushing Ferguson, don't let him come out here. Make him go the other way if he has to get out of the pocket.
3-man rush, climbing the ladder. Wooten in coverage, and Phil Mayhew gets a tad taller and wins the jump ball at the 33, a gain of about 16.
Nice confidence builder right there for this offense. No pressure. Cooley stand in the pocket, deliver that ball up above. That's sort of the altitude is that lost ingredient in some offenses, especially when you got pretty good sized receivers. You can utilize it.
Blitz comes against the pistol on a play fake. Ferguson showing off that spectacular arm to the end zone. Touchdown! Anthony Miller, responsible for 5 of the team's 12 longest plays of the year. He's on the receiving end of 33 yards in the air at a Memphis school.
Yeah, not too surprising. Thought Memphis was going to test him early. They've tested him intermediate to short, first try long, and they get a touchdown. That was an excellent job of concentrating, and basically half that catch was with one arm.
Anthony Miller gets his 3rd touchdown, leads the team in catches and yards. The redshirt junior who is from Memphis. Memphis going tempo, going big play, 75 yards in a crisp 2.5 minutes. And another point after from Jake Elliott, who's not missed at 172 career attempts. You can find CBS Sports Network by going to cbssportsnetwork.com/channel finder. Riley Ferguson in the air to Anthony Miller. Memphis an early 7-0 advantage. Welcome back to Annapolis on homecoming. I'm John Sadak. He's the Hall of Famer in Randy Cross, and Navy on cloud 9 for a couple of weeks now after their huge win last time out over a top 10 ranked Houston team.
Well, if you remember in that Houston game, Houston came out, had a lightning bolt down the field for a quick touchdown early. Navy had an answer, and in this one, you know, you've got to expect much the same way. Is that the most unbridled enthusiasm out of Ken Niumatalolo? For Memphis, be patient, be who you are, be number one means they were the number one team in the country coming into this week's games, and turnovers over and over is just run it, pound it, and be what Navy is his option team. And they got to think defensively, think of the ball, get turnovers, and they have to have pressure. They can't beat a team like Memphis without pressure.
Blake Elliott performed so well under pressure as a place kicker, but into the teeth of a vicious wind, the ball dies a wilting death, and it's downed by Memphis, touched by Memphis along the sidelines. Navy with solid field position. Chris Hyde, the deep fullback. Will Worth, the hard cadence.
Memphis started in what looked like a 3-4 defense. Now they're showing much more of a 4-3 kind of a look. Still 3 players down in stance, so it's a 3-man line, back to a 3-4.
Inside run and a trip forwards. Chris High earns the 39. Our Chick-fil-A starting lineups. The quarterback, Will Worth, 3 completions last week, 2 were touchdowns. He now has 9 total scores. Broke the century mark by himself on the ground in the upset of the Cougars.
Well, I referred to it 2 weeks ago as an out-of-body experience for Will Worth. I think it's the new normal. This is how they're going to expect Will Worth to play for the rest of this season.
Decides to keep and pitch. Tony O'Gully, the captain to the 45. Curtis Akins with the tackle. Here are the rest of the starters, including Mount Juliet, Tennessee product Andrew Wood.
Yeah, Andrew Wood had a great game against Houston 2 weeks ago. That whole offensive line really played well, and they showed something that you don't see too often in college football these days. They've got excellent size, and they also move. A lot of pulling and posting people up outside, getting on defensive backs and linebackers with their O-line.
Navy just outside the top 25 of the country on 3rd down. And Memphis is 4th in the country defensively, 25%. Worth tries to keep, and he gets smothered right at the line of scrimmage. Austin Hall, who was the big star in nullifying Tulane's run game last week, got him on the hip.
Austin Hall is the onside linebacker. He's got the quarterback, and he goes straight from that onside backer position. Never takes his eyes off of Will Worth and does a good job making that tackle. Navy's as aggressive as anybody in the country on 4th down.
Last year led the nation at 92%. They run the toss, and forward progress seems to have it. This will depend upon the spot. The ball is right around the 45, and they will not even measure. Chris Morley with the tackle. They move the chains.
Yeah, forward progress is marked past the 45-yard line. Tell you, you're going to see defensive backs, specifically corners, and even linebackers too, that tackle the first tackler, do it as well as anybody in the country. These guys are very good at just doing the basics, the tackling.
That was Darrell Bonner on that carry, who had played in 4 career games. Gave Navy some big reps last week, as did Will Worth. Navy quickly into Memphis territory. The ball had popped free, but he was down first before Jonathan Cook popped upon it.
Yeah, this was the difference in Will Worth. And 2 weeks ago when they played Houston, arm tackles didn't get him. He ran through arm tackles. Heck, several times he ran through shoulder tackles. He was so tough running and hard-nosed, and it's something he's going to have to be the rest of the year for Navy.
2nd and 2. Sean White, the biggest fullback that Navy's ever had in the triple option era, is in. He leads the path for Worth, who runs right through a tackle. He has the 1st down as we take a look at the Memphis defensive starters. Donald Pennington, nearly 300 pounds up front.
And they're going to challenge these linebackers. Pennington at nose tackle is very physical. That's why Navy has a guy like Morris at 325 to match that size that they have at nose tackle.
Pennington was among the more crestfallen in the loss last year for Memphis. He blamed hopping out of the gap. He said that was one of our biggest disappointments when Memphis lost as a ranked team to Navy. The keeper, Tony O'Gully, trying to find the edge, denied by Jonathan Cook, the free safety. Memphis is down some names today, though, Randy. Michael Edwards didn't play last week, personal reasons with his family. He is not in uniform, didn't travel. And Dontrell Nelson, one of their better corners, out today.
And we've already seen a good example of what they're going to need because those guys are out, John, is the continued tackling. And that was a good example there with Cook. Wasn't a form tackle, but it looked like it was going to be a 10-yard run. It was cut short because of a good tackle.
2nd and 6. The later pitch, and after the bobble, so settled by Dyson Romine, who turns that corner and veers around Jonathan Cook. Tripped up at the 23, a gain of 14 for a 1st down.
Pretty simple theory. You're going to take your running back from about here to here as fast as you can. This is a speed play with a pitch by Will Worth. There's the pitch. See you later, bye. Good luck. I mean, not even particularly well blocked, but I think excellently schemed, and that's how you use speed out of your S-backs.
Ivan Jasper, the 17th year offensive coordinator, constantly reinventing, putting wrinkles in. And Worth, gritty toughness. He carries a couple of Tigers, including Arthur Millette and Curtis Aikens.
2 weeks ago, this was kind of the new and improved, or the new normal for Will Worth, is that toughness, that grittiness you're talking about, just not going down. And that really personifies this team. Maybe last year with that 11-win team was kind of more of a skill team. This is a blue-collar team.
From finesse to power, and the run up the middle, the ball on the ground, and Navy pounces immediately. Tyler Carmona picked it up after Chris High put it on the deck.
Coming right into your kitchen, helmet right on the ball, knocks the ball out. But Navy and Carmona is able to be right there and get that fumble recovery.
This Memphis team has gained 18 turnovers, entered the week tops in the FBS. BYU turned Boise State over 5 times on Thursday to claim the top spot. First and goal. Sean White, he's the big fella, bulldozing a path, touchdown, Navy.
Well, that was Maurice Morris, Evan Martin, and Andrew Wood on that right side, just gashing Memphis's defensive line, getting into the blocks, maintaining the blocks. Oh, by the way, that's a 250-plus pound fullback. You just don't come into him sideways and stop him in his tracks.
Bennett Mooring, only 1 miss and 15 extra points on the year. That came against Tulane. And he converts.
Sean White, 6 foot, 255 pounds. He's a throwback to Nagurski, but a game show host in person.
Seams from the march on, one of the game's grand traditions before the game. It felt like the march on in the Navy scoring drive. A 4-yard plunge by Sean White. He was one of 6 different ball carriers, Randy Cross, in Navy scoring drive.
And a drive like that will test the patience of Memphis. Memphis is used to being an offense that can move the ball, that can put up points. What they're not used to is the other guy being so methodical. And that's something that takes some getting used to. It usually challenges the coaching staff and the play callers more, because they tend to press and maybe try to score too quick.
Bennett Mooring with the aid of the wind to Tony Pollard. Pollard has a kick return for a touchdown this year. Pollard past Mooring. Visions of a second. Tony Pollard ended a 20-year drought of kick returns for touchdown. He gets his second of the campaign, 100 yards.
And no flags down on the field. This one's going to count. Looked like Navy intentionally hit this one a little bit higher, trying to drop it out there near the goal line. Memphis does a very nice job of clearing out that Navy left side of the kickoff coverage, creating that hole. And once that hole is created, forget about it.
Until Pollard ripped off a 95-yarder against Temple, the Memphis program hadn't enjoyed a kick return touchdown since the upset of the Peyton Manning Tennessee Volunteers when Kevin Cobb turned the trick in 1996. Tony Pollard made Mooring miss his second kick return for touchdown of the campaign, and Memphis up a TD. It's the most points that Navy's allowed in the first quarter all year. The first kick return for touchdown allowed since Quadri Henderson against Pitt in the bowl game last December. Memphis puts it on the ground. Navy scoops it up. Nizer Cromartie.
Ball's on the ground.
And Memphis claims it has it. Memphis coming out clutching the ball in the air. Anthony Miller, the big play wide receiver.
Not sure if the grind, he was not already down. Ball was down when the ball came out.
Miller went down along with Cromartie and tried to rip it free.
Yeah, he was down, then the ball came out. That's a hazard for guys not used to carrying the ball, even if they do it in practice.
Inside run, and a bully run at that. Chris High knocked down to the 34-yard line.
Yeah, that's that same combination on that right side for Navy, just gashing things open. You know, if they're going to give you a 4-3 or a 3-4 straight up look, you better make people guess. You better be slanting, because if you stay in one spot, these guys will block the heck out of you.
2nd and a yard. Worth keeps, and he has it. Took a bit of a pile, sparked by Jannard Avery, the starting weak side linebacker.
You talk about that game that Bonner had 2 weeks ago in the last game against Houston for Navy. That's the whole next man up attitude in sports in general, but especially here with Academy football. They sort of live, they epitomize that whole next man up.
Another bully run for Chris High, who gets suplexed by multiple men, including Bryce Huff. Sharif White was part of that pile as well.
But those splits, when you run an option offense, John, specifically, that's kind of like the spread offense. And, you know, the huge splits were really made famous by Mike Leach and his Texas Tech team back in the day. Makes the defense protect a much bigger area of the field. And especially if they're big guys that don't like to run, it's not a bad idea.
Worth keeps on 2nd down. The pitch a little off, and Trey Walker handles it with a plum. Chris Morley and Austin Hall double team and deny at the 15.
Yeah, if there's one thing that you saw Will Worth do accurately and as good as he can do, that was the pitch last game against Houston. He was so accurate with those pitches. And that's sort of a lost skill these days. Not many guys are either called to or can.
3rd down and 4. Memphis 4th in the country in 3rd down defense. Worth flicking an end zone. Touchdown! Jameer Tillman! And Tillman becomes Navy's 2nd all-time leading receiver. A 15-yard grab. He passes Phil McConkey on the all-time list.
Bit of a drought for Tillman, too. Started that last game against Houston. Didn't get a reception. Gets a great body position, separates from the defensive back, and give Will Worth credit on the run, threw that ball extremely accurately.
Point after from Mooring. A deadlock.
At the bottom line from this play, Will Worth, great read of man. Because if you're in man and you've got Tillman because they're blitzing, you've got to give him a chance, and he gave him a great chance to get that touchdown.
Tied at 14, Will Worth, the touchdown machine. And for more on Navy's new steward under center, let's go downstairs to Sheehan Stanwyck Burge.
Thanks, John. Well, before the start of the season, the Navy coaching staff awarded a select group of players a special t-shirt that epitomized Navy football both on and off the field. Offensive coordinator Ivan Jasper told us that although Will was a model midshipman, his name was brought up, but he was concerned that his contributions on the field were not significant enough. Bernie Serra, last year's captain, a grad assistant this year, spoke up and said, Will epitomizes Navy football. We got to give him a shirt. They did. Will has proved his worth so far this fall, and we spoke to Ivan this past week. He told us how happy he was about Will and his place as becoming the starting quarterback, and said he played above and beyond in the Houston game, but noted there's still a lot more football to play.
Well, thank you, Sheehan. Will Worth, who championed comebacks, trailing in the 4th quarter over UConn and Tulane. Randy Cross, you did the tough math. In his last 4 completions over the last 2 games, how many touchdowns?
Just 3. It's not
3.
perfect, but 3.
75% of the time, he gets them all the time. And pieces of real Panther. In the split backfield, Tony Pollard, the man who had the big special teams return earlier, ankle tackled by Sean Williams, the strong safety. That's good for a first down, 10 on the first carry.
We talk about the inexperience or the youth of this offensive line. So far, they're doing a very nice job working against this Navy defensive line, getting some significant gains in the running game. And if they can keep doing that, they put Navy completely kind of off their game.
The game of Memphis does involve working in the air and going into the wind. Not a bad decision to let time expire on the first.
Not at all. Because Navy's had it twice. 11 for 5+, 10 plays for 5+.
A tie through one. We head to the second quarter. Memphis and Navy, the Americans' only undefeated teams in conference play, tied at 14. Running out of the shotgun, something that we've seen today. A game tied at 14. Navy does it from the triple, but Memphis a little different.
Well, take a look at Sullivan, the linebacker, and Kuhn, the right tackle, pulling. We talked about the Navy offensive line, pulling linemen and using some movement. There's a big tackle coming in there, trapping and opening up that big gash in the Navy defense. That's the kind of stuff, if you're Memphis, you can make a living doing that. It takes a while to get there, but right now they're man blocking up in front and then getting that tackle or guard on a linebacker one-on-one.
Time of possession dominated by Navy. Major asterisk. Memphis has a 100-yard kick return for touchdown as Patrick Taylor gets a carry. Taylor's a freshman who led the team in rushing in the opener against SEMO, but Terrace Wallace is not dressed, did not travel, and Sam Kraft.
Did he play from Sesame Street? Didn't he? Cousin of...
I think that's true. Telly.
By the way, that's Southeast Missouri for those of you that don't know who SEMO is.
To the edge, that's Tony Pollard, who's denied by Josiah Powell. Third down comes up here for the Memphis Tigers. No word if Big Bird will be involved.
Third and medium is a team that does pass accurately, so more likely a pass.
Pressure. Ferguson tripped up. DJ Palmore, another tackle for loss. His team leading 7th as he chips the quarterback.
Yeah, Palmore taking advantage, coming from that outside linebacker position and coming inside. A stunt in the game, coming inside and getting Ferguson, tripping him up. And this is going to mean some pretty nice field position again for the Navy offense. And heck, their worst field position so far seems like it's been the 35-yard line.
Spencer Smith sails the punt. Contact on Calvin Cass as he brought it in and took the harm. B.J. Ross with the special teams tackle. It has been a lively physical game early in Annapolis. Homecoming for the Mids, redemption sought for Memphis, and the contact has been frequent. Worth keeps, and they bite. Huge fake. Daishan Roma and the speedster. Bear hugged at the 32 by Arthur Mollett. A 32-yard run. Complete deception.
Tiger down on the field. Yeah, he does that trick of hand, almost that prestidigitation, hand-eye coordination, where he can fool you, and he does it about as good as anybody you've seen.
Anytime you go more than 3 syllables,
I know,
there's an insurance policy.
I should know better than that.
That's Arthur Mollett, who's the starting corner. He leads the team in passes defended. That might be somewhat moot against a Navy team that's 123rd in the air. Chris High at fullback. Even on plays where it looks like Navy doesn't get a lot, there they find 3, and that's something that We heard from Mike Norvell leading up to this game a concern about Navy's just falling forward and finding 3-4 yards.
Well, that was predicated, you know, when you watch a team like Houston play Navy, they covered every lineman and made it really hard to run inside. This defense is giving them bubbles. They're running a 3-4 defense. There are bubbles where linebackers are, and that gives you soft spots. Even if it's not blocked well, you got a chance to fall forward for yards.
The fake to the fullback, Will Worth! Stiff arm, end zone, touchdown! 29 yards. He shrugged off Chauncey Lanier on the doorstep.
Well, one thing that was really missing, remember Sharif White coming from the inside out, making that nice tackle on that one play earlier? Well, they allowed for the inside linebacker pursuit on that. Blocked the linebacker, and as soon as Will Worth pulls that ball out, he's got a nice, looked like it came out of his hand when it hit the pylon. And if that indeed is the case, that edge of the pylon is right on the goal line, and all that ball has to do is crease that goal line. Right hand has the ball, hits the pylon, goes over the goal line.
After review, the runner lost possession of the ball prior to crossing the goal line. The ball hit the pylon, therefore it is a touchback. Leave Memphis' ball at the 20-yard line.
So he lost control of the football, fumbled it into the pylon, and a touchback.
Yeah, that was really, though, a very nice play by Chauncey Lanier, because I think he's responsible for that ball coming loose right there at the end as he was going for the pylon.
Touchdown off the board, Memphis ball. Ferguson tried to fight it in a tight window and somehow is able to connect with Daniel Hurd. Sean Williams in coverage. That was a close call.
And another example, John, of Ferguson getting out to his right and being able to throw that ball accurately.
Up tempo for the Tigers. Inside run. The spin off Micah Thomas. Dorland Dorcius, the redshirt junior who's known for his vision. Cloud for 6. Quick hitter on the slant, Daniel Hurd. Another grab and into Navy territory.
Yeah, they don't mess around in this offense. Ferguson will look to the sideline. He's got his signal. They've called their play, and he's going.
He is a strong-armed young man. Hooks up with his primary target, Anthony Miller. Elijah Merchant was in coverage. Another first down.
Yeah, you can see he recognizes so well defensively.
Off the play fake, Miller twisted around by multiple defenders. Sean Williams tried to rip it free, but it's first and goal to the 3-yard line, 18 in the air.
Yeah, these Memphis receivers are feeling very confident of working one-on-one on the outside. Be careful down at the bottom of the screen for a double move.
They don't have the greatest of success getting touchdowns in the red zone. Soft lob to Miller. Dangerous ball. Incomplete. Williams arrived along with Elijah Merchant.
Wow, that was something. You had a chance to get, I think, some pretty good completion percentage into the corner of the end zone. Instead, they go short. This will come right at you, give you some idea. That's looking right up into the sun if you get that ball up high enough for the receiver trying to catch it.
Out of a Memphis call timeout. Darrell Henderson right up the gut, and Sean Williams is there, shoulders him down. Patrick Forrestal gave the push as well. It's 3rd and goal for a Memphis team that's had trouble finding the end zone in the red zone.
There's Lanier, the defensive back, on the spot there when Will Worth fumbled that ball. Could be a good footnote in that 14-point twist.
Inside run. Navy gets some pressure and holds. Memphis stopped short. Micah Thomas, the Sam linebacker, with a huge tackle.
Well, this is fourth down. This is 4 downs here. You don't kick a field goal after this turnaround. If you don't get it, I mean, you don't think negatively if you're Norvell, but you go ahead and you go for it here. Worst case scenario, they're pinned back. You got power, use it.
4th and goal. Keeper, Ferguson, no! Navy defense holds! Amos Mason and Daquan Thomason with the double team of the day. And Mike Norvell sees no points.
How about Amos Mason, defensive tackle, defensive end, 52, getting that kind of penetration. You expect it out of a linebacker. Ken Niumatalolo on the sideline. There you go, coach. A little more knee high. Higher, coach, higher.
And the crestfallen first-year head coach from Memphis. Mike Norvell's team scores a lot of points, more than 40 a game, just outside of the top 15 in the country, but that scoring's been down some in wins over Temple and Tulane the last couple of weeks.
You got to pin him back if you're Memphis. I like that decision.
Will Worth. A drive. Curtis Akins with the tackle. Riley Ferguson, the quarterback run, silenced.
Yeah, that's that inexperience. That's that youth up front in that offensive line. And that's a show that maybe you don't have that much confidence in your O-line when you resort to a little trickeration and a quarterback run on 4th down.
On 2nd and 1, Worth keeps. Austin Hall wraps him up. He gets the yard. Let's take a look at what Navy has accomplished. A pair of very Navy-like drives at the start result in touchdown, and that 3rd drive originally resulted in touchdown that under review was changed to fumble.
Yeah, it's mission accomplished in a lot of ways for Ken Niumatalolo's offense, but they're used to finishing things off, and finishing with a fumble is not finishing a drive.
Will Worth keeps. He finds yards. And he gets thrust forward by Christian Johnson, tumbling to the 40. That's good for 10 and a 1st down.
Well, the great thing about watching this kid run, besides the fact that he does run very tough, is there's not much wiggle to him. When he sees a hole, he puts his foot in the ground, and he goes straight north and south and puts his shoulders down.
Sean White now the deep man at fullback. Worth, the late pitch to Calvin Cass, who somehow keeps his footing. Gets bumped out of play by DeMarco Montgomery, that hybrid cat and linebacker. That's a 1st down trot for 11 yards. 1st and 10, Navy. Time of possession dominated by the Mids. Will Worth doing his own domination on the ground. Will Worth, they said that he was a grinder, that he was a hard-nosed player, but the transformation in the last 2 weeks has been eye-opening.
Well, late slide down into a 3-4 defense, and that right side again with Evan Martin and Andrew Wood do a beautiful job of collapsing that side of the defense.
After an 18-yard run, they know that Worth is likely to have the ball, and Jonathan Wilson, the freshman who got a start today, knocks him back for a loss.
Yeah, what a nice job by Wilson there. That's the best way to cut off that frustrating pitch play. Get the quarterback before he can pitch it.
It's a 30-second timeout.
We get a called timeout. Navy elects to use its first. Worth baffling all the live long. Will Worth plunges to the 22 yards on the quarterback keep as Jameer Tillman helped to spring him loose.
Concentrate on this area and watch the hole open up. Man, does this open up beautiful. Look at that gash in the defense.
That's the 4th rush of double-digit yards for the quarterback Will Worth today.
Well, it also shows you've got a veteran player in there at linebacker who's suddenly not there. That's taking advantage of inexperience inside.
Worth on 1st and goal. End zone touchdown.
Well, since Will Worth fumbled that ball, we've seen a possible 17 points not scored. Worth, then Memphis's possession on 4th down. They don't get it. Then they missed a field goal. And finally, an offense finishes a drive here with Will Worth running this one in for 6 points.
And he is still the holder. There was talk about giving up those duties. They practiced some without Worth, but it makes sense to have him out there. Bennett Mooring converts. Navy up 21-14 at half. Memphis got one of its scores on a 100-yard kick return touchdown, and Navy, remember, had a touchdown called back, called a fumble on contact with the pylon. We go downstairs to Sheehan with the Navy head coach, Ken Niumatalolo.
Thanks, John. Coach, you've dominated time possession and in the scoreboard. What's your assessment of the first half?
Well, we got to take care of the ball. I mean, it's a tough fight. They're a good team. We got 30 minutes left, and we're going to expect the battle for 60 minutes.
You had a little bit longer of a break with the game to ECU being postponed, but you talked about your team needing to be physical. Have you been happy with that?
We got to do a better job of stopping the run. You know, we can't allow them to do the run and their RPOs at the same time. We got to be able to take away something. You know, hopefully we're going there at halftime, make some adjustments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheehan, and thank you to the head man as we have hit halftime at Navy. Mike Norvell's team has a couple of scores on the board, but Navy has the lead. The only undefeated teams in conference play in the American. It's halftime at Annapolis. The last of the undefeated teams in conference play in the American. Navy. Memphis, second half just moments away, 21-14. Navy in the lead. John Sadak, the College Football Hall of Famer, and Randy Cross. Here are the numbers from the first time of possession dominated by the Mids.
The big number to me is 3 sacks. Time of possession you expect to see in Navy's favor. If they get this opening kickoff and hold it for a while, it's going to be a problem for Memphis because they've got to finish each drive. They've had some good possessions. They haven't finished them the right way. And for Navy, like Ken Niumatalolo told Sheehan, they've got to be able to stop the run because right now inside they have not done that.
Today's second half kickoff brought to you by Polaris, the world leader in off-road. These are two outstanding teams in kickoff, defense, and kick return yardage. Both rank among the elite in the FBS. Dyson Romine, second in Navy history, averaging nearly 28 per kick return. Only Eric Wallace, who played from 82 to 84. So the kick away clean with the help of some wind that's well deep for a touchback. Let's go downstairs to Sheehan Stanwick Birch.
Well, guys, I had a chance to talk with Memphis coach Mike Norvell, and he thinks defensively they need to come up with some stops. He felt they allowed Navy to have too many yards per carry. Offensively, he felt they had a lot of missed opportunities. They left a lot of points out there, so wants to be more effective. He also gave me news that Sharif White was not likely to return the second half.
Well, thank you, Sheehan. We saw White clutching at his hamstring and then limping significantly on the sideline. The number, Randy, that you talked about at halftime, similar to that of Mike Norvell, 7 yards per carry for Will Worth. Gives it to Romine on the toss. Chris Morley escorts him out of bounds.
And the first play, they stop the fullback. They stop Will Worth, but then the pitch is there. It's one of the frustrations of playing against this option offense. You just have to do your job. If you get out of position and try to do something special, it's a huge hole in the defense.
Memphis team that entered 38th in the country, 4th in the American in rush defense, allowing 140 per game.
Lining up in a 3-4, both tackles and center covered.
Inside run. Chris High knocked down by Curtis Akins. It's good to move the chains. Here's a look at what transpired for Navy. That fumble deserves a pretty big exclamation point.
How about a question mark? But so far, Navy's put the ball on the ground twice, and functionally they've lost both of them.
And that fumble came with Will Worth hit the pylon and fumbled in the process. It was called on the field touchdown. It was changed to touchback. Darryl Bonner getting increased time. Curtis Akins again lassos him.
We saw 2 weeks ago, John. Remember the perimeters? Just time after time. Now you've got a defense that is thinking inside run. They're thinking we'll stop the fullback. They're thinking we'll stop Will Worth. We aren't giving him up any more yards. He's already got 119. Navy will just flip the ball outside and take the perimeter.
Sean White, the big fella in. Will Worth keeps it. Will Worth has the first down, shouldering into Chris Morley. He drew praise from the fullbacks this week. Sean White said if Will Worth wanted to, he could be a fullback.
He kind of runs like a fullback when you look at it here. Look at that. 2 hands on the ball, protecting the football and lowering his shoulder. That's got football. That's got fullback written all over it.
4 straight positive plays to begin the drive. 8, 5, 8, and 12 on the ground. And 4 different ball carriers in the process.
Odd front look. Almost like a 4-3 here.
Blitz peeled off. Worth zigzagging. Steamrolls a defender in DeMarco Montgomery, who's a 6'3", 245-pound hybrid linebacker in.
Well, the problem if you're a defender is you often can't be as aggressive against this defense because you get hesitant. You don't know where the ball's going. Like I said, you tend to guess. And when you do that, you're not going forward. Your pad level's a little bit higher. And you don't have the leverage. And Will Worth had all the leverage there.
2nd and 6. Jonathan Cook creeping up to press. Inside run, Sean White. Not a lot of breathing room to the 36. Curtis Akins stalls him after 2. It'll be 3rd and 4.
Yeah, it's a good job inside with Aiken. Pennington also helping out with Gentry.
Navy 4 of 6 on 3rd down today. He's found his sea legs. And on the pitch, he finds a first down. Dyson Romine leaping into Jared Gentry's clutches. Darryl Bonner helped to spring him loose.
A lot of patience not only shown by the back, but also by the receivers. Look at these guys blocking down the field. They'll get back into defensive backs. I love what these guys do down the field with the receivers, not only backside like that, but also onside. Time for big Gentry or Pennington, somebody to get some penetration.
Instead, it's the push for Chris High. 5-yard plunge to the 20.
How about that? That looked like a 2-yard dive. And suddenly it's 5 yards. But that's the hazard when you start mixing things up. This offensive line really adjusts well. That's why I said, you know, whoever it's going to be, if it's Jennington or Pennington, whoever, Memphis has got to get a big play, a big negative play with penetration. Showing the blitz.
So Gentry jog off. They've gone a little lighter up front. Toss play, great block. Down to the 5, Josh Brown, his 3rd carry of the year. Ernest Suttles tripped him up.
Keep an eye right there on Avery. The linebacker was showing the blitz. Look who gets around on him. Wood. He's got to try to go backside and avoid the blocker. You go backside and avoid the blocker, you're going to end up giving up a big run.
Josh Brown had no varsity action until this year's opener against Fordham. Navy already 313 on the ground today, broke 300 against Houston, which entered as the top rushing defense in the FBS last week. Go right back to Brown, who gets about a yard. Chris Morley, the tackle. Arthur Mollett in there as well.
Yeah, that's another example of what we saw earlier in the first half, John, where defense just had the numbers. Your whole idea of going into the sideline, into the short side of the field, is usually you have the numbers on the defense. Defense had one more than they could block.
Chris High, the fullback, on 2nd and goal. Worth keeps following High to the end zone. Touchdown! Second on the ground, third total today for Will Worth.
And Navy football had a gentleman at quarterback named Keenan Reynolds the last 4 years that made this play famous, the follow. You fake to that fullback, then you follow him through that hole. Chris Hyde didn't really even have to block. There was just a natural soft spot where Will Worth ran through there for the touchdown.
A 2-score lead for Navy. Bennett Mooring, perfect thus far today, into the wind. The extra point true.
Great play calling upstairs by Ivan Jasper. Great execution by the left side of the offense. West, Morris, Martin, well done.
11 rushes, no passes. It helps when the blocking wide receiver is a converted linebacker at 225 pounds in Laster.
You mean he's used to hitting people instead of just being hit? Yeah,
pretty much.
It doesn't hurt.
It feels like that's just part of the culture for the wide receiver position at Navy.
It's part of the culture for this football team. They've got to be tough. They've got to be physical.
Kicked on the ground into the difficult wind, scooped up at the 20. Darrell Henderson, running back, can make some plays, and he gets nearly to midfield. Let's go back to last season. Navy at Memphis early November ended Memphis's perfect season, 15-game win streak, 374 yards on the ground, 5 rushing TDs, 3 by Chris Swain, and Navy got its first road win over a top 15 team since 1974. Today, well, Navy's on pace to do even more, 318 yards already on the ground. Again, it's Henderson who stumbled to the 45, a gain of 7.
Again, it was Kuhn and Neville in there.
Ferguson left his man a little prone. Alohi Gilman goes low, and he got underneath Joey Magnifico, the redshirt freshman.
Is that one of the great names in college football?
Definitively.
Magnifico.
Navy rushes 4. Misdirection doesn't yield much, only a couple, 2nd and 8.
That's okay. It's really what Memphis wants. They want to be patient with their run, rely on the fact that this young, inexperienced offensive line can do some work. They've been a problem at times this year, and even this game we've seen them stopped on 3rd and 4th and short. But you got to keep faith in them and mix in the pass. You can't just drop back with your quarterback. Ferguson will get pounded.
On a chilly, windy day, off the hands, the gloved hands of Jalon Oglesby. Ferguson seemed to put it on the spot.
Oh, that thing was on a rope. Maybe a freckle high.
Ferguson, whose career started at Tennessee, suffered a broken leg, redshirted, and then left without telling anybody, something that he says he now regrets. His father had quotes to area media inferring that the arrival of Josh Dobbs was a big factor, although Ferguson seemed dismissive of that on the record and claimed he was in front of Dobbs when he left. 3rd and 8. Wide open soft spot in the zone. Daniel Hurd, first down.
Beautiful protection by Memphis. Ferguson's able to sit there, tap the ball, tap his feet, find this open receiver, and that's putting that ball dead on a guy.
4 of 7 today, empty. Caught near the 13. Josiah Powell takes care of Kadarian Jones, and they get to the 12, good for a first.
Well, there's a nice job. Navy backing up basically in a zone defense.
They convert, getting 10 yards. Dorland Dorcius grinding to around the 8. Jackson Pittman, the freshman that Navy loves, the backup at nose guard at 6'3", 315, smothered him.
There's a nice little grit by Dorcius. He got hit and refused to go down, got himself a couple extra yards, setting up a big 3rd down.
Off the play fake, it's a touchdown. Daniel Hurd, the redshirt senior, gets his first score of the campaign and a one-score game in a battle of the league's only unbeatens in conference.
There again is one of those run-pass options. Look at the motion up front. It says run. But great read by Ferguson. He fakes to his back. He sees the linebacker move up. That creates a hole right where he knows his receiver is going to be. And he delivers it right on the money. Great poise by this Memphis offense on this drive.
Jake Elliott has never missed an extra point. He's now made all 174 in his career. Ferguson leads 13 plays, 82 yards in a shade more than 3.5 minutes. And it's a touchdown game at Navy. And with the wind, a giant kick from Jake Elliott. And yes, that graphic, great job, Peter Rizzo, getting that up on the screen. The first second-half score of the year for Riley Ferguson. Here at Navy, a later pitch, Dyson Romine. He gets 15 yards. Chris Morley dragged him down. Armed Forces Football proudly sponsored by USAA.
And the problem run we've seen in this second half has been the pitch, the outside. Fullback, quarterback, check. Outside, not so much.
Another pitch. Darryl Bonner showing some shimmy and a stiff arm to Chris Morley, some old school football.
What a nice job by Calvin Cass Jr., number 20 on the outside. Watch him deplete the Memphis defender. Guys that are on their face usually don't make tackles.
Help spring free Bonner. And Chris High, Calvin Cass, and the quarterback Tyrus Wooten were among the players the coaching staff told us this week would likely not have played had the ECU game taken place on Thursday, postponed due to Hurricane Matthew. Chris High, the deep man here, as High gets spun down at the 30. Ernest Suttles, the tackle. We stepped aside as DeMarco Montgomery was hurt and received some assistance coming off the field. He's number 13 on the bottom of Will Worth there. He's the top tackler among Memphis's defensive linemen.
Yeah, you can get legs squished in funny directions if you're a player like Montgomery that's had some issues anyway. Muscle-wise, you can re-aggravate things.
They're down some bodies on the defensive line already. Some issue on the exchange. And High knocked out by Donald Pennington. DeMarco Montgomery had a targeting penalty in the Bowling Green game, as you see the issue on the handoff there. Somehow High was able to wrap it tight.
Looked like Will Worth wanted to go back in after it.
But you see there Christian Johnson. He is a redshirt junior who's had more time at end, and that first sprung free when Montgomery had the targeting ejection to the blowout to Bowling Green. Johnson had to play the first half against Ole Miss because of a suspension. There's a rather violent hit on Calvin Cass Jr. delivered by Curtis Akins. Well, thank you, Brent. So that didn't take long, Randy.
Not too surprising. They're the #1 team in the country for a reason.
Worth the later pitch to Cass, trying to stretch it out. And he'll lose some. Stride for stride with him was Austin Hall, and that sprung free Jonathan Cook.
Yeah, Austin Hall did an excellent job along with Jonathan Cook. Not only stringing it, but avoiding the block. Romine wanted to get a block on Cook, but Cook would not be blocked. Excellent defense, and that was to the wide side of the field, too.
This is going into a very difficult swirling wind. Second down to 12.
It's a lot easier to run an option into the wind, just in case you're curious. Doesn't slow you down quite as much.
But if a field goal were to come about, Hall got a tap on the right shoulder of Worth. He has 6 yards, 3rd and 6, and it appears Navy's pretty content to let some time tick away going into this win.
Well, this is perfect for them. I mean, and Memphis knows it. This works against them because every time Navy gets the ball, They want to go double digits with the ball, plays-wise. They want to run at least 5.5, 6 minutes off the clock. And this drive has been custom-made for Navy football and has to frustrate the heck out of Norvell and his staff on the sideline. They just can't get back on the field.
Worth doesn't have it. Multiple bodies there, including Montgomery and Jared Gentry. So zeros hit.
Norvell called timeout with 2 seconds left. He ran down the sideline, got in the official's face, and called timeout before that clock expired. He wants to keep Navy in this situation because if we flip the field, Navy's got the win for the field goal. Why not make it 4th down with 2 seconds left and make them, if they're going to kick it into the win? That was a great call by the Memphis head coach. Remember, a lot of problems here in the second half, specifically perimeters running to the open side.
Off a play fake, Worth, end zone, touchdown! They convert on 4th and 4 for a touchdown to Tyler Carmona. 18 yards, only his 2nd grab of the year.
There you go. I'm thinking run to the wide side of the field. Will Worth fakes the ball briefly to the fullback, runs his receiver right to the middle, just running to the goalpost. Nobody is with Carmona. I mean, nobody. That was the lonely end there.
6'4", 222 pounds, wide open. Memphis took a gamble, called timeout to make Navy go into the win. Basically made Navy go for it. Will Worth converts the hookup in the air, and Navy back on top by 2 TDs. A battle of the Americans' only teams unblemished in conference play has Navy on top entering the 4th, 35-21. Navy undefeated in conference action at 3-0. Memphis 2-0 on the east side. It's Temple in the driver's seat after besting South Florida. All the teams in the east have a conference loss.
And that last play, that touchdown play, was well conceived, making a defense think. And Carmona comes away with a touchdown on a play that looked easy, but they kind of made it easy.
His 5th career catch. He sat in the Houston game with injury as the wind knocked the ball off the tee.
Again.
His only other touchdown came in the Military Bowl, the victory over Pitt that put a bow on the program record 11-win 2015 season. So the role of Lucy once again played by Kyle Battle. The wind will be aiding Bennett Mooring, who has sailed it well beyond catchable depth every time he's had this aid. And a reprisal. Needing a couple of scores, he finds Tony Pollard as we journey back to the Big Apple. Brent Stover with a scoring update.
Well, it's the 9th defensive touchdown of the year for Alabama, and their 10th straight game with a non-offensive touchdown. A scoop and score for Jonathan Allen. They lead 26-14.
Well, thank you, Brent. A big play here. Sean Dykes, the freshman, with his first grab. The ball came free, but an emphatic point to the turf that he was down. 30 yards in the air.
Quick little escape by Riley Ferguson. And that ball definitely came out after he hit the ground.
It is amazing what Alabama can do scoring-wise on defense, though, and against top 10 teams. Palmore obliterates the quarterback Ferguson, and somehow he puts it on a line to Daniel Hurd. What guts from Riley Ferguson.
Well, if you're a quarterback and you're playing major college football, sometimes you just got to stay in there and take that hit. And Gilman gets a big hit himself on the receiver, but he catches the ball.
26 yards, 1st and goal from the 7. No QB here. It's Patrick Taylor in a wildcat. Taylor on 2nd effort. End zone touchdown. They went split backfield, funky formation with 3 running backs.
Is that with quotation marks around the F and the Y? a funky formation, but that, did you see him get knocked up completely upright at about the 5-yard line and then put his head back down and keep running? That was a beautiful job by Taylor and a nice answer by Memphis.
Point after touchdown is good. The freshman Patrick Taylor, his second score. Mr. White?
Well, big hit on the quarterback, big hit on the receiver, gets stood up at the 5, score my touchdown, no problem for Taylor. How about a little bump? Overall, what a perfect answer by Memphis.
Just 1 minute, 4 seconds to go 70 yards for a score. The ball hanging up some in the wind. Trey Walker making a man miss, leaps in the air, it soars out of bounds at around the 23. There, that was actually a pass completion as High shielding the football, bruises to the 20. Curtis Akins took him down there, gain of 7.
Yeah, your Memphis's defense, though, you've gotten this Navy offense a little bit backed up. They backed themselves up with that penalty. You've got to keep them in this hole and get the ball back for Ferguson in the offense. There's 2 scores down. You can't, or 1 score down. You can't afford to give up a long drive.
High pirouetting. Gets to the 24. It should be good to move the chains. Indeed, it is. Armed Forces football proudly supported by Northrop Grumman. Well, Memphis, the masters, Randy, of turning teams over. Before BYU turned over Boise State 5 times on Thursday, Memphis had entered the week as the national leader in takeaways, and 25% of Memphis's points on the year had come on turnovers. Inside run yields little. Jonathan Wilson, Austin Hall combined on the stuff.
Nice job so far by this Memphis defense of answering the call for their offense, sitting on the sideline, stuffing things inside. This is the part of the field, this is the time in the game that over the last decade or so, this has been Navy quarterback time. Just when you think you've stopped the fullback, you think you've stopped the pitch, the quarterback comes and bites you.
Will Worth, snap it away. Darryl Bonner protects the football. He's down inside the 25. Bryce Huff, the tackle, 51 yards to the slot back.
Well, give Kendi Montalolo credit. Give his quarterback Will Worth credit. But how about Ivan Jasper and the job that he's done calling plays, especially these passes that have put the ball in Will Worth's hands, but he's only had to hit wide open receivers. There was nobody around Cass. That was set up so well.
Will Worth, decent amount of yards on first down. He rumbles for about 7.
See, now's where the experience of a quarterback like Will Worth, he didn't start for the last few years behind Keenan Reynolds, but he's studied, so he knows what to look for in these situations. He has to look for defenders trying to do something extra, which will create an opening in the defense. And when you see that, you have to take advantage of it, and that usually means a quarterback run.
He's going to massage that play clock. Memphis with 2 timeouts. Navy has none. Navy has held the ball for nearly 40 minutes. Will Worth! That young man is one of the breakout stars in FBS football.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. The blocking up front, pretty good, but that's about reading the defense, seeing the hole, going to the hole, and you notice how he had both arms on the ball? That wasn't fancy. That was making sure you get as many yards as possible. There's no possible way what was the best team turning over the ball in FBS coming into this weekend doesn't get a chance to strip you of the ball.
27-yard streak. He's 8 shy of 200 yards rushing today. And Worth knocked down by Arthur Mollett. He gets to the 7. Worth keeps. Worth down just shy. Curtis Akins lassoed the QB.
Well, last game against Houston, I referenced Will Worth having an out-of-body experience. Man, he showed these Navy football coaches and Navy fans that kind of performance is his new normal.
Memphis just called the game's final timeout of regulation. Worth to the end zone, gets the push of the score. His 3rd rushing TD of the day.
Well, there was nothing cute or finesse about this play. Go behind Morris, go behind West, get in there behind Wood, get a little momentum push from behind you.
The point after from Bennett Mooring. He got it. It all began with a receiver fumble, with a double team knocked the ball loose from Roderick Parker.
Yeah, it's that Merchant helmet to the right hip, jarred the ball loose, and then it was Will Worth, and just a little bit more Will Worth for the touchdown.
So Proctor put it on the ground. Will Worth puts it in the end zone. Smiles abound. Will Worth, the first Navy player to rumble for 200 yards since Keenan Reynolds against Georgia Southern in November of 2014, when he had 277 in the battle of option offenses. Remember, Georgia Southern entered that game at the time, leading the FBS in rushing.
Everybody looked at Ken Niumatalolo and Ivan Jasper funny the last couple of years when they always told individuals, you know, we can win with Will Worth. I know he's our 3rd string quarterback, but we can win with this kid. He came into the season the number 2 quarterback. That lasted for about a quarter and a half. Then Tago Smith did his ACL, and this guy has really filled in admirably.
You saw the disparity in the graphic of rushing yards. Tony Pollard could be an equalizer, but a rather inspired Navy special teams unit will not allow that. Ryan Harris, who has been the star of special teams on coverage, yet another tackle.
If you're Navy defensively, you rush 3 people, and maybe one of those is a spot, and you drop back. You do not allow anybody to get behind you.
They bring 4 with a stun. Ferguson has to tuck and arc a path out of bounds.
And trying to get away from Palmore, the linebacker. He's played a heck of a game, as has Ferguson.
Well, remember that DJ Palmore is from Bartlett, Tennessee. He is one of the 17 Navy players from Tennessee, tied with California for the state's 2nd most well-represented on the roster. Ashley Ingram, the main recruiter in Tennessee. Ferguson eludes Forrestall, slides down to the 30. DJ Palmore said that Memphis recruited him some late, but never gave an offer. He already had an early commit to Navy. Sean Williams, the starting strong safety, he is from Memphis, did not get an offer to play for the Tigers. They had a bit of a chip on their shoulder entering this week. They convert on 3rd and 1, but down 2 scores, 1:16 remaining, no timeouts.
And you've got to start pressing the ball a little bit further down the field, but you see the quandary that this Memphis offense is in. Navy is playing so deep, they're letting those completions in front of them for 10 or 12 yards. But if you keep them in bounds, that means the clock's going to run like crazy.
Also saw there Will Worth might indeed be human. It appeared his face, left eye area was getting looked at. Pressure on Ferguson, falling down. Incomplete pass rule.
He wasn't out of the pocket. So did the ball get past the line of scrimmage, or was he down before he threw it? Down.
His knee's down.
He was down at the 27-yard line. It'll be second down. The game clock will start on my signal.
Yeah, he was definitely down. Good call. Good catch.
Our head linesman, Adam Luden, had indicated incomplete on the near side.
You think Coach Ken wants him to run the ball at all? Run the clock?
It winds here with a shade more than a minute. Anthony Miller. Micah Thomas is not letting go.
56 seconds left. No timeouts. Get a big play and an onside kick, and this thing can be contested. Memphis knows they're still in this thing. Can't be convinced otherwise.
Ferguson finds Miller, collapses in front of Williams. They move the chains, clock stalls for now.
What a great advantage in college football to have those chains move and they stop the clock until the chains get spotted. A good offense is already ready when they rock that clock.
Defender down. Incomplete. The hat flew as the intended target was out of bounds, and Phil Mayhew. Navy's getting pressure with 4 here.
Well, what they've done is early in this drive they were rushing 3 and dropping 8. The last couple of plays they've rushed 4 and dropped 7. Do they blitz, or they just bring the 3 that have got their hand in the ground? They blitz.
Tony Pollard helped out of bounds by Hudson Sullivan. Remember the numbers on Riley Ferguson entering this game. He had 0 touchdown passes in the second half all year. He did break through the plane and get a score in the air today, but he needs more than 1.
Well, the deepest safeties are 16 yards off the ball. They will not be beat deep. Got a man open in the end zone.
And tossed short. Incomplete. Does a play fake do anything in this situation?
It should. These guys are, you know, young football players, so maybe it would affect somewhat. But Riley Ferguson will look at the tape tomorrow and he'll know he could have had one there. If he'd have been prepared to throw that ball a little bit earlier, he had a receiver open.
4th and 4. The flip to Taylor. He's out of bounds with a first. But a lot of time being consumed here.
Down to 19 seconds now. Now just doing the math on the time. You know, it tells you now you're talking about a touchdown and a Hail Mary after an onside kick.
They have one of the stronger armed QBs in the American. Ferguson graze some. End zone look to Miller. Knocked down by Sean Williams, another Tennessee product from Memphis.
Another one of those kids recruited by Ashley Ingram, the running game coordinator and offensive line coach. Miller did a very nice job of turning into defender, because that should have been caught by Navy.
For those of you tuning in for the East Carolina-Cincinnati game, you'll be able to find that online, cbssports.com/live. As soon as it kicks, we'll also get you out there immediately after the conclusion of this game. Ferguson lofting end zone again. Knocked down once more. Williams and Thomason. 3 seconds as Will Worth gets some celebratory hugs, and Navy is well on its way to a 14th straight win at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium, the 2nd best active win streak in major conference football. And it's also the longest win streak ever at this stadium.
And Ken Niumatalolo is about to go to 11-1 in conference play.
Ferguson out of time. Riley Ferguson, a gentle jog. And he's down inside the 10. The Navy midshipmen, the only team undefeated in conference play in the American. Ken Niumatalolo's midshipmen, 4-0. And they're in the driver's seat in the American West. 14 straight home wins for Navy, the second best active home win streak in the FBS, the only undefeated team in league play in the American, with head-to-head wins over both Houston and Memphis. Let's go downstairs to Sheehan Stanwyck Birch.
The huge win in terms of conference play, great team effort. What made Will Worth so effective? You always said you could win with him, but he played so well.
Just a tough, hard-nosed kid. You know, give Memphis credit too. That was a heck of a ball game. Memphis got a good team. Fortunately, we were able to come with the victory.
Enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One team remains undefeated in conference play in the American, the Navy midshipmen. For Randy Cross, Sheehan Stanwyck Birch, and our entire CBS crew, I'm John Sadak. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network. We send you out to our next American game. It's Dave Ryan, Corey Chavis, Melanie Collins on the call. East Carolina, Cincinnati.